strong relationship to this region, as do the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz, the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and the Chinook tribe. And now I will introduce our honored guest, Dr. Anita Archer, PhD and outstanding educator and educational consultant. She shares her expertise in explicit instruction, the design and delivery of instruction, behavior management, and literacy instruction. She's taught students across K-12 and higher education and is the recipient of over 14 awards honoring her excellence in teaching and contributions to the field of education. Dr. Archer has served on the faculties of San Diego State University, University of Washington, and the University of Oregon. She is nationally known for her professional development activities, having presented in every...
Thank you, Amanda. Yay, thank you. Yes, 39 inches of snow at a ski resort that opened the day after Thanksgiving. And everybody wondered, well, with 39 inches, why not today? It was a fascinating moment. But here I am in Oregon, and this is actually my home state now. It is a total gift. Every Monday before Thanksgiving, I have this gift. But we have a whole range of people here. We have people that are not going to university, Portland State University, but are in the field as teachers. So raise your hand if that is you. All right. And then we have individuals that are undergraduates just entering the field of education. Raise your hand if that is you. Woo, woo, woo. You all sat on one side of the room. All right. Okay, I will have to analyze that later. But many of you are in a 1-year, 2-year master's program that followed your undergraduate degrees. Raise your hand if that's you. All right, and then you're spread out. All right, and raise your hand if you are a professor at Portland State University. Woo, 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 woo. So I do extra monitoring of professors. Yes, for on-task behavior, for not looking at their phones, for totally being present. Woo, Tiffany, and especially you, because that's what Alice told me to say. All right, so now, there's sort of multiple levels to our time together. And one is just to be reminded what good teaching looks like. Because whether I am teaching preschool, and we have some preschool teachers, whether I am teaching students in a private school for children with dyslexia, or I am working with special educators and education students in K-12, or I'm a high school social studies teacher, high school math teacher, good instruction is good instruction. But we wanted to put it with some content that was critical, and that is reading comprehension. Because, raise your hand if there's a possibility that you'll be teaching reading at some point. Good size. When answers are short and the same, why have just one person say it when we could all say it and practice the information? And so choral responses, for example, Kevin in his social studies class, you've got questions that are short and the same, and everybody could say the answers. Well, sometimes the answers are long and different, and that won't work. So in many of the cases, we will use partners. Now, one of the things we know about active participation is the need for structure. And so, for example, when we say things like, oh, turn and talk, woo-woo, turn and talk, ooh, turn and talk, not the optimum situation. So we are going to use structured partners. And let me model. We're going to start with this aisle, going that way and this way. You're number one, partner number two. Now we have an odd number. You know, and when you're a teacher, principals should give you an even numbered class. And when someone is absent, you should just send their partner home. But it's not going to happen. So the middle person, Jennifer, is number one, and both of you are twos, listening to her answer. And so let me do this over here. It seemed like the two of you came in together. You're number one, partner number two. Excellent. And here we have 3, I might put you in a chair in just a moment. Yes, would you just raise your hand and she'll join you right there. And you're number 1, partner number 2, be certain you're sitting side by side. Okay, so starting at the middle aisle, we're going to go this way and this way. Number stuff. If you have an odd number, the middle person is a 1, the other 2 are 2s, and go.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're both like 1 and 2.
Okay, good. All right. Hey, you have a partner? Good. Everybody turn and stare at your partner. And raise your hand if you're a 1. And raise your hand if you're a 2. Raise your hand if you're a 1. Raise your hand if you're a 2. Raise your hand if you're a 2. Ooh, I caught you. All right, Ashley. So we will say answers to partners. What else might we do? Well, we have structured partners, and the reason for structure for partners, well, let's go back to core responses. Core responses, I said think and say, because it's like making beautiful music in an orchestra. Everybody says it together. And it's structured. Without it, some kids will hold back and just mimic someone else's response unless you can force them to say it together. And in terms of partners, is it possible if I give no designation and I just say turn and talk, that some student might dominate the partnership? Could that happen? Yes or no, everyone? Yes. Absolutely. And so as an area of equity, we want to be able to say who's going to say the answers first. So structured partners, often called precision partners in the research, is what we're going to use. Well, what else are we going to do? Well, sometimes I might call on an individual. However, one of the things that is critical is to make a safe classroom. And so many people are telling you to do what they call cold calls. Carla! See, this is not helpful. Carla is, I already knew Carla. She's sad that I know her name. But that is the kind of thing that makes children even, aren't you anxious, Trinta? Because I could call on you too, because I know you too. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to have an environment where children have fear. So I might call on an individual, I might call on Carla, but I'll do it after I've taught information very well, after she's had a chance to rehearse the information, maybe shared the answer with her partner, and then call on her. So it is safe. There's nothing good about making a frightening environment for children. We have to have a safe environment for children. So now, one of the things that I do in the schools I work with is I insist that we have a no hand raised policy. And I'm going to tell you why. If I asked a question and had students raise their hand and called on someone, who is most likely to raise their hand? High or low performing students? Everyone? High. Assertive or shy? Assertive. Students that are proficient or emerging in English? Proficient. Another aspect of lack of equity. Because I'm going to keep calling on the highest performing, most assertive, most proficient in English. It's what I call teaching the best and leaving the rest. So in my classes, okay, I thought it might be mine, and it's just Julie's. Okay, but we forgave you. She wrote a great book on English language learners that I just read. It is critical that we think about removing unequitable practices in our classes. And we just have met 2, not having a designation on partners, just turn and talk, again, dominated by some and not the rest, and answering kids' questions or having them raise their hands. Now, can children ever raise their hands? Yes, if you say, raise your hand, everybody, raise your hands. Everybody, I see the people in the back aren't up yet. Okay, good. And, or if you had a question for me, you would raise your hands. All right, what else will we do? Well, you have paper in front of you, and ooh, you even brought extra paper, woo-woo. But you can write notes on this, and sometimes I will have you write down answers. If we want kids to write, particularly if I'm in 3rd grade and above, we better have the kids write a lot more. Do you know, in Oregon, consistently from school to school, the lowest area of performance is writing. Lower than reading, lower than math, it's writing, because it is the most complex. You have to be able to read, you have to have spelling, you have to have punctuation, you have to have all the transcription skills, all the translation skills. Whoa. But then the kids never write. And so we're really working on increasing the amount of writing in classes. Well, what else are we going to do? Well, remember I told you that when you look at the comparative research, one that makes a huge difference is unison choral responses. But the second one is hold-ups, where the students are going to hold something up. You have a single piece of paper at the back of your handout. Let's do this systematically. The last 3 pages in your handout, you want to separate from the rest. The last 3 pages at the end. Okay, one of them is a hold-up. Okay, so everybody hold it up. Okay, good, 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 excellent. I'm looking over here at this group. They're still working on their hold-ups. Ooh, perfect. So the research on hold-ups, again, found that it made a significant difference in students' outcomes. Now, there's many things that we could use here. Maybe I'm going to have multiple choice items up here, and you're going to show me with your fingers what is the correct answer. That's a hold-up. Maybe I'm going to have you write on a whiteboard, and then I'm going to say, show me, and you're going to hold it up. That would be a hold-up. Maybe, ooh, you're coming to thank you for helping her, or you. Or I could have a response sheet. Now, I love this one because it's simple. And so if I was teaching like high school social studies, I'd have this on the desk when they came in, and I'd say, we're going to use our response cards, put it on your table, and touch, agree, and disagree. Do it. And so then you're going to pick an answer, and we're going to read a statement, and you're going to say if agree or disagree, and then I'm going to say, show me, and you're going to hold it up. Okay, so everybody hold up and agree with me. Ooh, yes, it's the only option at this moment. Okay, now, why did hold-ups make such a difference? Well, because maybe I have a class of 20 kids or 25 students, and this is a way to get them all to respond, and I can hold all of them accountable. And so hold-ups are something we could add. I just was in a class where the teacher was doing a review in elementary school of in punctuation. Put up a sentence, no punctuation, and they read it together. The students had to touch a period, a question mark, a exclamation mark, and the teacher said, show me, and they held it up. And everyone in the room did it. Now, here is the biggest idea. We're going to also look at passage reading. And students are starting way back in 1st grade might be reading passages. Many teachers have them read it silently. Now, we have done some observation studies that found that we have a lot of silent reader fakers who look down, look up, and say, I'm done. And there's no way they could have, like, read it. So particularly with primary children and children in intervention, we often have them whisper read, just loud enough so that if I come by, I could monitor your reading, but not so loud that they're going to interrupt Catherine's reading, Morgan. So, and we're also going to do choral reading together. So let's say I have in 2nd grade a class of 20 children, and I call on Nancy to read, and then I call on, you're going to have to pronounce it for me. Goji.
Goji, yeah.
Thank you very much. I didn't meet you yet. Goji, to read. And each of you read 1/20th of the material. Or we could read it together and you would have read it all. Are we going to get more practice in 1 out of 20 or 20 out of 20? Which one, everyone? 20 out of 20. So that's what we are going to do with choral reading. Sometimes we might read where I read and stop and you say the next word. Actually, a practice that we field tested with middle schoolers who often are thinking other things. So many things. And so I read, stopped on critical terms, and they said that word, we had more on-task behavior. And we could have students read to a partner. Now, what does this mean? Well, one day I was in a school site in middle school, and I had talked to a number of struggling readers who said, you know, I'm so anxious when I go to my social studies class, my science class, because the teacher might call on me. And then everybody in the class will know that I'm not a fluent reader. And I said, I've got to find an easy solution to this, and I did. The me or we option. So I teach teachers that when they call on an individual student to read in front of the class, that they have the option of saying we or me. If they say me, they read it. If they say we, they've just asked the class to join them. What is fascinating here is you could be a very competent reader but still anxious to perform in front of your group. So we see that many kids do we. But also, let's say you're reading to a partner. And it's your turn to read, and you're not certain of all the words, a little anxious that she might put you down in some way, probably not, because she's perfect, but if she did, you say we, and you've just invited her to read it with you. If you take nothing away, back to your school, take the me and we. Can you see how that creates a safer environment for children? All right, well, this is just to tell you that we're going to be actively participating. And up here, this is a motto borrowed from my good friend Kevin Feldman, who does a lot of training at secondary schools. Everyone does everything. Say it, everyone. Everyone does everything. Everyone says it, everybody writes it, everybody does it. Everyone does everything, whether it's special ed, general ed, elementary or secondary or college, everyone does everything, even if it is 4:30 to 6:30 evening class. Whoa. Do you realize how much energy it takes for me to like lift you up? You know, I'm almost 77 and I really am going to use all of it tonight to lift you up. All right. So this next slide is one of the biggest messages in reading literacy. And that is our end goal is that, for example, that you would take this article and you'd be able to read it and understand it. But what is necessary for you to be able to read it indicates what we need to do within education to ensure it. Number one, to comprehend, the student, everybody read it with me, can read the words accurately and fluently. To be really honest, there is no possibility of comprehension if you cannot get the words off the paper. You must be able to read the words. Now, why is that significant? Raise your hand if you're a special educator or going to be a special educator. So when we look at the research on children referred to special ed in 4th grade and above for reading, their major problem is 81% in the research that was done by Sharon Bond found that they can't read the words. And the truth is, if you can't read the words, there's no comprehension hope, period. So in your class, we might have to think, what do I need to do to ensure that the students can read the words so that they can maintain some comprehension? Well, and the student, everybody, understands the meaning of the words. So here we sit as competent adults, and if I was asked, well, what's going to predict your comprehension and your comprehension and your comprehension of anything you pick up? Number one is, do you understand the meaning of the words, vocabulary? Now, for many students, vocabulary is one of their major challenges. Would you say that's one of the major challenges of students who have English as their second language? Julia and Amanda, yes, you do. So when I was in Alaska, there were people from boroughs way out and about, and they kept saying, this is our major challenge, is the students often don't understand the meanings of the words. After they've gotten really good intervention, they can decode the words, but they don't have the meaning of the words. So I can guarantee you, if you're a teacher at any level, elementary, middle school, or high school, or college, you're going to be teaching what? Vocabulary. Vocabulary. And what else? Well, the student, everybody, has adequate background knowledge. In fact, this is the biggest predictor of your comprehension. It is your background knowledge. Now, I always use this because this analogy because I'm always hoping when people come to Portland that they go to Pal's bookstore as well. They should, right? It's one of our scenic spots. And I've lived here for now 26 years, 27 years in Portland. But the first time I went down there, I learned that it was actually the pickup area. I mean, if you're like really loved hiking, you would go sit and stand in the hiking department rather than going to like a bar to, okay, it was like a whole new vision. But let's say that I went to Pal's. And I went to the Rose Room, which is children's literature, but it also has comparative religion. It has poetry, many things that I'm interested in. And there's not a book there that I couldn't take off the shelf and comprehend because I would have the necessary, what? Background knowledge. But I always envision this, that in the basement of Pal's, I mean deep in the basement, there is a room that says engineering. Now I can tell you, going in and picking up a book on engineering and opening it up, I would have no comprehension because I have no, what everyone? Background knowledge. So now we've talked about three things that can make a difference. The child could have low comprehension because they can't read the words. The students could have low comprehension because they don't know the meanings, they don't have any what? Vocabulary. And they don't have the necessary what, everyone? Background knowledge. And what else is left? Well, where is their focus? Are they focused on the critical content? Are they focused in processing what they are reading? Every one of you have had a moment where you've been reading something and your thoughts were somewhere else. Like you're sitting in, it's Sunday evening, you've got a book in front of you, maybe it's even for your book club, maybe you even picked it, but you are reading. And then your thoughts go, oh God, who's gonna feed the dog? Maybe my husband will, maybe he won't, I don't know. And so I better check on that. Oh, got back to reading because we got book on Thursday club. Okay, I'm reading along, oh God. I don't want school lunch tomorrow. I didn't go to the store. What do I have? And then you go back, and then your son comes in. Why are you so late? And they take that. And then the next day you pick up the book, and you have no recall of any of it. Raise your hand if you've ever had this experience. Okay, so it shows that you have to have your cognition focused on the content for comprehension. But this is important because it not only gives us an idea of what students must bring to something like reading this article, but also when students are having difficulty, did I ensure they could read the word? Did I teach the vocabulary? Did I give them enough background knowledge? Did I help them keep focused on the content? So this is the biggest idea versus, and active participation are the big ideas of today. All right, and ones, turn and face your partner.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to get this. There we go. And ones, you're going to say, here's 4 things that students need to have in order to have comprehension. Here's 4 things students need to have in order to have comprehension. Ones, tell your partner. 2s, agree or disagree or add to their answer, and go. Don't look at your notes. Perfect. Excellent. Okay, fall silent. Actually, that's one of my favorite directives. So much nicer than shut up. So remember that one, fall silent. So, but I presented information. We rehearsed it as we went. And then I had number 1s retrieve the information. And if you just remember this, learning means that you rehearse and retrieve, rehearse and retrieve. You do what, everyone? You rehearse and retrieve, everybody. You rehearse and you retrieve. And so learning really requires both. If you just rehearse it, but don't take the stimulus away and have to retrieve it from memory, your recall will be much lower. So rehearse and retrieve. Excellent. Okay. Now, just a little hint. If you're a teacher that uses PowerPoints, get an advancer. If I see one more teacher have to go all the way over to their computer over here and touch it, no. Tell your principal that you need one and tell him I said that. Got it? I knew you were the principal. Yes. Okay. So I'll just monitor you more. But you've been waiting for the Christmas gift. This is it. Everybody gets one. All right. Well, this one allows me to do a number of things, but it just changed one thing. What?
You got it?
Yeah. I'm not sure why it did that, but no problem. Okay, so you might have noticed that this handout has many pages, and you're already wondering, will she finish it? And the answer is probably not. You know how that goes. Okay, so we're going to look at one of the ways that you would organize instruction around having the students read a informational text. Now I'm going to tell you the text could be at the 3rd grade level, the 2nd grade level, could be in high school science or social studies, or it could even be a read aloud in preschool that is informative. So this is generalizable up and down. And it's organized into what we might do before, that would increase comprehension, what we do during, that would increase comprehension, and what we might do after, that would stabilize and extend comprehension. So with that, you're not going to be surprised by this. 2s, tell your partner, just from what we just have learned up to now, don't look at your handout, what I might do before to increase your comprehension. 2s say, before we read, I might do this. And go.
Before we read, I like review.
Partner 1, partner 2.
Thank you.
Before we read, I might
Talk about vocabulary.
before we have multi-syllabic words.
I am totally blessed by the 3 of your presence.
Thank you.
Okay, fall silent.
Yeah.
Well, let's just check this out. You had enough background knowledge to get this right. So you might teach them the what, everyone? Pronunciation, particularly of multisyllabic words and what, everyone? Proper nouns. Can they read the words? And then as I went around the room, you said, well, there might be some essential or critical, what, everyone? vocabulary that I need to teach directly so that they will have that as they read the material. Raise your hand if you had vocabulary, you and your partner. Raise your hands, right? And, oh, I might need to teach them some necessary what, everyone? Background knowledge. Perfect. All right. And I might even give them an idea, which is often called a mental map in the research, a mental map about how to do it. When you go to Powell's bookstore and you pull off a book and you are going to get it, but you turn it over and read the back of the book to get an idea, a mental map about what the story is about. True? So we might give a mental map to them. Okay, well, we're going to start with pronunciation. Now, my research is in the area of teaching children multisyllabic words. It's a thrilling topic to dedicate your life to. But it's important because when we look at struggling readers in 3rd or 4th or 5th grade or middle school or high school, oftentimes the problem is no approach to multisyllabic words. And what they learned for short words did not totally applicable to long words where you have to break it into decodable parts. So I looked at this article and I said to myself, are there any words that I should teach the pronunciation of? Because if you are going to store in cognition the meaning of a word, what allows you to do that is connecting it to the pronunciation. And so have you ever noticed that when you aren't certain of a pronunciation of a word, how difficult it is to be able to match the meaning towards it? So being certain they have the pronunciation is going to make it more fluent reading, but also gives them a hook to use for vocabulary. So now, this is the strategy that I'm going to teach you. And forgive me, it's a strategy that comes from the program I wrote called Rewards. I asked the author, could I use it? She said yes, and there we go. But so looking at long words, and we teach this in general ed, like in 4th and 5th grade, as well as in middle school and high school to struggling readers. In fact, some of you said, as I met you, that you had taught rewards. So raise your hand if you have taught rewards. Okay, good. All right, and there's lots of rewards. They learn to read long words. So the first step in it is to circle the what, everyone? The prefixes. Everyone, what prefix? What prefix? Con. What is it? Con. Circle the what, everyone? The suffixes. And what's a suffix? Shun. Okay, and next we underline the vowels. And what sound is this vowel, everyone? So we have broken this word into 4 decodable parts, and then we say the parts, and do it with me, and go. Reconstruction. And then we say the whole word is what, everyone? Reconstruction. And is that a real word, yes or no? Yes, okay? So circle the prefix, circle the suffix, underline the vowel, say the part, say it fast, make it a real word. That is the strategy. And would it be helpful to teach students this kind of strategy? Yes or no, everyone? Yes. It's a research, evidence-based strategy with many studies that has been done on it. And basically, it is done for this reason. So 81% of older struggling readers, their major problem is they can't read the words. 80% of multisyllabic words have a affix, a prefix or a suffix. So if we peel off the prefix, peel off the suffix, we're left for very little to decode. And then we decode that part, and knowing that every syllable has one vowel sound. Okay, so be my students. So this is a lesson I actually taught, and I taught it in Australia in an economics class for 8th graders where they were learning the importance of the Panama Canal as a part of that. Now, let me just pretend that you're not in Australia, but you're in Portland, Oregon. Okay, so looking up here, students. we're going to prepare for reading an article that is going to give us information on the Panama Canal. And it fits directly into our discussion of international trade. And so it's a canal where ships can pass through it. For example, from Portland, if we wanted to get some logs to New York City, then we might put them on a ship, take them down to the Panama Canal, through the Panama Canal, and back up the Atlantic Ocean. So we're going to learn a good deal about the history and the importance of the, what, everyone? The Panama Canal. Teacher talk. That is a mental map about what we're going to cover. So it's just a quick preview of it. But now you got kind of, okay, I got it. We're going to talk about this in terms of trade and economics, international trade particularly. All right. Now here's some words that are critical to what we are going to read. And so we're going to use our strategy. And everyone, what prefix? Come, not com, but come. And what suffix? Excellent. And say the name of this letter. E. And read the parts. Completion. And the whole word is completion. So we're going to follow the history from the very beginning, attempt to build in the late 1800s the Panama Canal to its completion in 1914. I'll check that date to be certain I'm right. And looking here, does this word have a prefix, yes or no? No. And what is a suffix? Meant. Good. And say the sound for this letter? Ah. The letter O sound is ah. What sound? Ah. Say it again. Ah. And ER, what sound? So if we sounded this out, what part? Gov. Next part? Earnment. But we don't say government. We say what, everyone? Government. Say it 3 times. Government, government, government. All right, so I'm not going to teach all of them. Ooh, I probably should, but I would with the students. So these were words that I'm going to use a strategy on, guide them in using the strategy. But always we're looking for, are they learning something more than just these words? Are they learning a strategy that they could employ other places? Yes or no? Yes. So there's always more to what we're doing if we do it right. Yes, we're getting the words down, but we're also having practice using a strategy we could generalize. And the word generalize is one of the most important words within your teaching careers. I teach you how to write a letter so that you can write letters. I teach you how to read long words so you could read long words. So we're teaching in the moment with always the purpose, always our eyes on, will they be able to generalize? Will they be able to generalize? All right, well, you have this in your materials. Would you locate that map and put your finger on slide number 9? Just monitoring over here. Good job. Excellent. All right. Okay. So let's just do a little world review so that we have a better idea of where we are. So this is the what, everyone? The United States. And we live in, or at this moment, in the state of Oregon. And it is on what ocean, everyone? The Pacific. And New York and all along here is on what ocean? Atlantic. Okay? And so in this article, we are also going to learn about some countries in what continent is this, everyone? Europe. And we're going to learn about the country of what, everyone? France. Because France was the country that first envisioned making the Panama Canal, began the work on it, but because of the death of more than 5,000 of the workers, they terminated it when the United States took over the building of the Panama Canal. So we're going to learn about that, and also the influence of what, everyone? Great Britain. And so when we look at, put your finger on Great Britain on your own map. And I'm having trouble seeing it, but it would be right in here. And put your finger on France. Great. Well, when we look at this map, we are going to talk about the Panama Canal. And notice where my laser is, put your finger in the same location. And this is the country of Panama. What is the country, everyone? Panama. And this area is called Central America. What is it called, everyone? Good. And this continent is South America, and this continent is teacher talk. If I was teaching in an Oregon school and I was teaching this in 8th grade, should I assume that they all know where the continents of Europe, North America, South America is, and where Central America is, and where Panama is? Should I assume that? Yes or no? Now, that's what I would call a assume-a-side. You cannot assume that. It would be better to teach it. In fact, explicit instruction has sort of a law, and that is tell, don't ask. Tell, don't ask. Now, I'm going to emphasize this because when I watched 250 videos of teachers, this was one of the most consistent errors. Does anybody know about fractions? Okay, but this is the best one that we have on video. A 3rd or 4th grade teacher says, so this word is precipitation. Does anybody know what precipitation is? A hand goes up, and the teacher says, so what is precipitation? He said, well, that's like, sort of under your arms. Okay, no, not quite. Let's see. Oh, you have an idea. You raised your hand. What was precipitation? It means you sip something. You sip something. No, not quite. See, the problem is asking before you teach. Could they have misinformation, yes or no? Yes. And is it possible that somebody in that class in 3rd or 4th grade is like picking up on the misinformation and thinking this is precipitation, yes or no? Yes. Yes, okay? But then there's another problem. The 3rd child that she called on, do you know about precipitation? And the child said, yes. Precipitation is talking about water that comes to the earth in the form of rain or snow, even sleet, and all of those are water forms, and they're called precipitation. And the teacher said, wow, excellent job, let's move on. So the teacher, using one child's correct response, made a decision that everybody knew it. No. Big mistake-o. And people say, well, shouldn't I bring out people's background knowledge? There's a danger in that misinformation will be conveyed, or really good information, and the teacher will make a wrong impression. You can have plenty of opportunity to bring out children's background knowledge after you have taught them what it is. Tell, don't ask, everybody. Tell, don't ask. All right, but I did not assume that you would know all this. Well, I knew you knew all this information, but the students that I was teaching, and yet they cannot read the article without that information, these proper nouns. Well, we also need to teach some vocabulary. And so this is a routine for teaching vocabulary. And it comes from the book I wrote with Charles Hughes on explicit instruction. And we looked at many different routines and put one together that would reflect the research, but also would reflect that it could be used in preschool. It could be used with words from a read aloud. It could be used for words in a high school social studies class when we need to teach vocabulary. But I always like to bring children here. So you need a blank piece of paper, and it could be the back of the response sheet. And so we're just going to take a moment to watch teaching vocabulary. And here is your job. You're going to write down just a note on anything you think is good instructional practice. For example, maybe I tell students the goal of the lesson. That would be good practice. Maybe I am teaching them information with great clarity. That would be a good practice. Maybe I'm using a routine like pronunciation, meaning, example, check understanding. The one that I just covered up, maybe I move out and monitor the students. Maybe I have everyone do everything. You're going to just make a few notes, and when we're done, you're going to share with your partner, what you thought were good practices. So this one is not in Oregon. This is while I was doing a large grant. Right now I'm doing a large grant in Oregon, and you guys know that. Yes, and so, but this was in New York City, and it was a intervention group, and they were learning vocabulary for a passage that they were going to read. So let me just get this. So your job is to write down anything that you would say, ooh, that was a good practice. I need to, what, everyone? Discard them. I have cards. Every card that's been sent to me, I'm 64, every card that's been sent to me since I was like 5 years old, I have kept. And I have boxes and boxes of them, and I probably should discard them. Okay, and so, first ones, then twos. Tell your partner something that you should discard, and start with, I should discard. First ones, then twos, and go. Excellent. Okay, looking up here, and big voice your sentence. Excellent. So you're not going to just throw them away. You're going to discard them, get rid of them, but they're going to go to charity. Excellent. Okay, well, looking here. And again, it's the word what, everyone? Discard. And brainstorm with your partner what might be discarded in a landfill. And continue. Count the number of ideals that you list. Okay, my turn first. So things that could be discarded in a landfill. Food that is rotten, old papers, a toaster that's broken might be discarded in a landfill. Old letters, old cards, clothes that are all ripped up. Okay, continue with your partner and count as you go, say as many as you can, things that might be discarded in a landfill, and go. 100% English language learners, you might have noticed that. So I'm giving more background knowledge than I normally would in terms of language. You approve, Julie. Things that don't work. Things that work, you're going to discard them. Things you don't wear. Things that you don't wear anymore. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. So we're going to do whip around or pass, meaning I'm going to start here and you're going to say one thing that might be discarded in a landfill. And so What might be discarded in landfill? Your plastic. I'll be back. And old toys, old computers, paper, books. What? Clothing, TVs, rotten food, yes. Okay, I'll think about it. I'll be back. What? Trash. Excellent. And back to you. Glass. Excellent. Those are all things that might be discarded. Okay, our next word is indistinct. What word, everyone? Indistinct. It is an adjective. And read the definition. If something is indistinct, it is not clearly recognized or understandable. So if it is indistinct, it's a little bit difficult to recognize or to understand. And the synonym is what, everyone? Unclear. So if I look out the window and I can't see that building over there, I could say it is what, everyone? Indistinct, okay? If I am reading something and it's just not clear, I can't understand it, I might say, well, this passage is indistinct. If we took a photo of you today and it was all blurry, but we could sort of pick you out, we could say it is indistinct. Excellent. And so here are some examples of things that people have talked about that are a little indistinct. And read it and go. Supposedly, this is a picture of the Loch Ness Monster. Okay, we're starting with this photo. This is a perfect non-example. Is it possible that seventh graders in New York City have never heard of the Loch Ness Monster? Is that possible? Yeah. This was pure suicide. Oh my God. You know, I've worked with her now. You know, she's 54. I'm still working with her at 76. I give her feedback constantly. I'm telling her, don't do that. And there she goes. Tell your partner something. Mm-hmm. Okay, and tell us your sentence starting with. This photo is indistinct because. Okay, black and white, so it's not in color, and so then it makes it a little less distinct. And you said, okay, so start with this. You can't clearly see it. Excellent. Okay, and here is another picture. And read the sentence, everyone. Why would we say that this photo is indistinct? You're going to begin by saying, everybody, the photo is indistinct because. Once, tell your partner the answer. Excellent. That's very clear. Okay, looking here, your sentence. This photo is indistinct because it is blurry. Excellent. And our next word, one of our favorite words, is abstract. What is it? Absurd. Good job. And it is what part of speech? Adjective. And read the definition. If you say that something is absurd, you are criticizing it because you think that it is ridiculous or that it does not make sense. So when something is really ridiculous, we could say it is absurd. So if I was wearing like this Halloween costume and it was a silly, silly, silly costume, you could come up to me and say, ooh, that is pretty absurd. If I told you a story and I sort of exaggerated in it and it was quite ridiculous in the end, you'd say, oh, that story is pretty absurd. And of course, the synonym is what? Ridiculous, okay? And so, looking at this photo, okay, something to protect this puppy from the rain. It's available in New York still. Why would we call this invention absurd? And begin by saying, everyone, this invention is absurd because. Okay, now think about it for a minute. Get your sentence in mind.
umbrella that goes out.
I'm thinking. Okay, ones first. Start with that, then twos. Tell your partner why this might be absurd. Go. Woman. Yeah, I know that is kind of absurd. You say, okay, fall silent and your sentence. Did you notice the anxiety of this young one? So I rehearsed it with her, practiced it with her, so that she could have the privilege of sharing with her partner. I never would call on her without that rehearsal first. Fall silent and your sentence. Absurd. Excellent. And your sentence. She did a very good job. It might hurt the dog. Now, when I was thinking, all of you started laughing. You thought it was ridiculous, or another word is, it was absurd. Good. But thinking is good. And looking at the next one. Okay, we're going to stop there. We're going to post this, so if someone wants to watch the end of it, they can. I have my list of good practices, and here's what you're going to do. Turn and face your partner. Twos, you're going to start. You're going to read your list. If your partner has it, they're going to put a check after it on their own list, and then they're going to share what they have that you didn't have. Let me go through it again. Ones are going to tell their did I say ones? Yes. Twos. Twos are going to tell their partner what they wrote down. Put a check on your paper. Ones, if you have the same idea, then ones add to it, and begin.
Or first, and then kind of.
I haven't met you both.
Olivia.
Hello, Olivia.
Hi, Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Nice to meet you.
I've worn them for 35 years. One day I woke up and said, I need fewer decisions.
There you go.
There we go.
So
Hello there.
Hi there.
Joshua.
Hi, Joshua. Hi. And I met you. No, in the line down there. Okay. So what did you have?
Oh, uses an example, and then there's more examples.
Right.
So there's lots of
Excellent.
examples.
And
Every student gives responses.
everyone does everything.
Choral response.
Oral response is beautiful. And you had?
The tell before asking, repeatedly
Yes.
repeating the vocab word over and over again, make sure they can hear.
Repetition. Great.
You modeled all the activities before asking the students to do it. You had the
Excellent.
constructed partners. You were fully high energy that whole time.
Excellent. All right. A star for you too. All right. Because she was jealous.
piece of using that.
Thank you.
Look at this tidy.
I know, isn't it amazing?
Well, yours is too, but hers is
Teeny tiny.
really tiny. Yes, but good.
So I
Best idea?
the best idea.
Uh-huh.
Probably the moving around the room and monitoring.
Right. Excellent. Perfect. No, think time. Who said that?
Yeah.
Good job.
You getting checked?
One idea?
One idea? Choral response.
Choral responses. One idea?
Yep. So,
Another one?
choral reading or background knowledge.
Background knowledge. Okay, good.
To give examples.
Okay, two of you standing up. All right. You just shared with your partner. Amanda, of all of yours, what was the most important idea?
Oh, well, I have monitoring and feedback as an important idea.
Excellent. So because they were talking to partners, I had to move around the room. But did you notice that I always return to the front of the room? Because you create a teaching arena and all important information is given there. Some teachers give information at different places in the room, but the kids can't figure out what's happening. So I was monitoring quietly and privately, giving feedback, and then I returned to the teaching arena. And you said?
You gave sentence starters.
I did. I gave sentence stems, and boy, here was the thing. If I didn't give them sentence stems here, and I called on a student, say what about that picture, and they say, well, you know, it's fuzzy. It's really fuzzy. It's not really clear. But they would not have used the word indistinct. So sentence stems are useful across your grade levels to actually set it up so the students will use the vocabulary, the academic vocabulary we want. All right, thank you very much. And so, routine. Well, yes, there was a routine because, nope, it's absurd, but you're gone. Now you say, well, Anita, you did that 22 years ago. But I will tell you this, the research on good instruction has not changed in 50 years. We've known for 50 years what leads to learning. We just haven't always done it. But you just saw that what I did there is what I've done with you to increase the probability of learning. Okay, so let me just pull this up. Just wait 1 minute. Okay, you have a question, stand and deliver your question.
Never mind. Okay. My question is, how many words at a time is appropriate?
So that's been researched, and so there might be 20 before you read an article. And so you decide, okay, that's too many. I'm going to break it down into pieces. Maybe we read one segment of it one day and the next segment and the next segment. I'm going to teach some vocabulary between each. But in the studies that were done, it was 4 to 5 per teaching session. Okay? And so that you could do what we just did. So here we had basically a routine. And I'm telling you, good instruction uses routines. So I first introduced the pronunciation. Because if you cannot pronounce it, you cannot attach meaning to it, store it, and retrieve it. And then I introduced the words what, everyone? Meaning. And then I illustrated with some examples. And then asked them questions to what? Check students' understanding. I wanted to show you a little video just to show you particularly, that was less than 10 minutes that we watched. Did we cover quite a bit in that amount of time? Yes or no? Did we have a perky pace as we did it? Yes. We used every moment of instruction, particularly if you're going to be a special educator. You are urgent. It's an urgent need to ensure that students learn. Can't waste a moment. And it needs to have prepared teachers teaching with a perky pace to cover as much as possible. And so I just looked up at the clock. Boy, this night's going fast, isn't it? Well, watch Perky. Okay. So I first introduced the words, what, everyone? Pronunciation. Now for this article, the critical word was complication. What word, everyone? Complication. Put your hand on your table, slow it down and say the oral syllables with me and go. Complication. That came from a high school science study done by Lene Airy to ensure that students could pronounce the word before they had instruction on the meaning. And then I would introduce the meaning of the word and read it with me and go. A complication is something that makes a situation harder to deal with or more difficult to do. So complication goes with our history of the Panama Canal because there were many complications back in the late 1800s and early 1900s in building the Panama Canal. So, for example, this is when the construction began, 1881, and it opened in what, everyone? 1914. And there were complications like hot temperatures, and still environment, and engineering challenges. There were many complications. And so we introduced the pronunciation, the word, give examples, and then we might give them examples that they could relate to. So you are preparing to study for a test, but there's a complication. Read it. You left your book at school. That is a complication. You're going to wash the family's clothes, and the washing machine is broken. That is a complication. And so then I had them come up with complications, read the situation. You are hoping to run a marathon. One complication is, this is one's turn. One, you're going to start by saying, one complication is, twos. Another complication is, and go.
Practicing, getting ready for it.
That's a complication for sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't meet you formally.
Zoe,
Zoe?
nice to meet you.
Goodness.
Nice to have you here.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for
Are
coming.
you learning anything?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because if not, we'd have the late night session. You knew it, Zoe.
Anita.
And Amanda, one complication is
Don't have the proper equipment.
you don't have the proper equipment. It is everybody, complication. And your idea,
Oh, what? My what?
your idea.
Oh, my idea.
One complication is.
That you be thirsty.
One complication is that you might get thirsty, and that would be a complication. All right. And another is, I heard as I walked around, I can't run. Okay, that would be like a woo-woo complication. Now, so we are ensuring that the kids can read the words. We taught the pronunciation of the words. We introduced the meaning of the critical word. If you don't know what complication is, you're not going to understand the history of the building of the Panama Canal. And I introduced to you steps in a routine. Good teachers, what they learn is routines. And so, twos, tell your partner the 4 steps without looking at your notes in teaching a vocabulary word, and go. Okay, eyes up here. Okay, just a little hint. If you're using a PowerPoint and you touch W, it whites it out. If you touch B, it blacks it out. Really useful for the purpose of retrieval. So you had to retrieve it from me. The purpose is for what, everyone? Retrieval. So rehearsal, you first introduce the pronunciation, then the meaning. You illustrate it with some and you check their understanding. Excellent. Well, we are going to look at the next one, and to tell your partner what we haven't covered yet. That would make a difference in comprehension. And twos, go, ones help them out if they don't have an idea. Of course, I just gave you a major hint. If you were looking up here, you said, oh, I bet it is. Just a second here. I bet it is checking for understanding. All right, so when I was teaching this, I thought the students needed some background knowledge. Now, I already have given them some by giving them a mental map. I also gave them a little course on where Central America was and where this country of Panama is and where the Panama Canal was. So that was also background knowledge. So if we look at the research, which is really emerging research, wouldn't you say there's more emphasis on background knowledge than even earlier in our careers? And why we didn't put more focus on it is a mystery to me, because for all of you, you came here with different background knowledge and you have different levels of being able to assign meaning to what we're doing based on your background knowledge. So it should be introduced with what, everyone? Clarity. And we need to, what, everyone? Rehearse it. And we need to retrieve it from memory in order to learn it. Never forget, rehearse and retrieve, everybody, rehearse and retrieve, rehearse and retrieve. So we teach it with clarity, we rehearse it, and we retrieve it. So I'm actually going to teach it what I taught to the students, but one of my favorite books is by Graham Nuthall. Yep, Graham Nuthall is deceased. He was a wonderful researcher in New Zealand who studied what children were doing in terms of learning. And he decided this as a summation of his career, that the students needed at least 3 total introductions to a body of knowledge to get it and retain it by memory. So if I was a social studies teacher teaching about the Panama Canal, I'm going to tell a lot when we do background knowledge and vocabulary, but then I'm also going to add to it when we read about it, and I ask questions on it, and when you write upon it, 3 total different are necessary for us to get it. So are you going to get everything that I did this evening? No. Because I have to come back 2 more times. All right, and you're saying that's okay. All right, thank you. The Hidden Lives of Learners. Have you ever read that book? It's a definite one to read. It is Nuthall. It's hard to forget. I think, I think that Graham should have considered changing it because he was super smart. All right, be my students. You have an article in front of you that we are going to read, and read the title with me and go. Highway of Water. Now, we have highways right out all around this city and all around this state and country, and vehicles go on that. Trucks and cars are the vehicles. This is talking about vehicles on water, ships and boats. And when we talk about cars and trucks, they carry people, they carry things, goods. Remember, we've talked about goods in economics. It is not like, ooh, good job, really good job. It is a thing that we buy or sell. So we're going to look at this analogy to highways we drive on, highways that we sail on. And it's all about the concept of the what, everyone? The Panama Canal. All right, so find this slide. It's in your handout. And put your finger on the word Panama. Okay, and this is a country. And is that country in Central America? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, okay. And the country is what, everyone? Panama. And this line is representing the what, everyone? The Panama Canal. And this continent these are just some of the countries. Whisper to your partner what continent it is. And everybody, it is, I didn't see you whispering to each other. The continent is what, everyone? Excellent. Okay. So on this side we have what ocean? Atlantic. On this side we have the Pacific. All right. And here we have a definition of the Panama Canal. I'm going to read when I stop. You're going to say the next word. Okay. When I stop, say the next word. The Panama is a human-made that provides passage. That means movement through. Passage between two natural bodies of the Atlantic and the Pacific. Okay, so the important part, get you ready to underline. It is human-made waterway. Underline it. And it's a passage between two natural bodies of water. So underline bodies of water. And it is between the Atlantic Ocean, underline, and the Pacific Ocean. Okay, 2 is your turn to teach. Using your underlined words, teach your partner the definition for Panama Canal. Using the underlined words, teach.
Water, which are the Atlantic and human-made water.
So remember, having kids teach it to someone else, great way to rehearse it. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Get in the habit of saying, now teach it to your partner, because they are going to rehearse the information. And because they're rehearsing it, will they be more likely to remember it? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, let's learn a little more about the Panama Canal. So here we have a map of the, what everyone, the Panama Canal. And the map is going to show us where the canal was built. Now, in some cases, this is the Gatun Lake, and this was a lake, but they expanded the lake so that part of the movement would be through that lake. But other places, like right here, they had to dig out. Think about this in the early 1900s, where we didn't have the kind of equipment that we have today. They had some, but they had to dig it out for the ships to pass through. Quite amazing. All right, and Gatun Lake, and I had to look up the pronunciation because I knew some people who speak Spanish would be here. And Gatun Lake. Read it with me and go. Gatun Lake is an artificial lake that forms a major part of the Panama Canal. So you would be with the Gatun Lake, but here's the important part. Read it. Gatun Lake is 85 feet above sea level. So a ship comes in at what level? Sea level. What level? Sea level. And it has to be able to go up 85 feet in order to go to the lake. We got a problem. And they solved it with what is called, what everyone? Locks. Okay, now I have broken out the definition into 3 attributes, teacher talk, for what are called tier 3 words, which are content-specific words, like locks here is a content-specific word. The best way to introduce the definition is to break it into its attributes. So here are the attributes. So it is, first of all, a what, everyone? A device. And, everybody, used for raising and lowering boats and ships. And, continue, between, stop, together, between different water levels on the river and channel waterways. Now, this picture even shows it better. And so, this is called a lock, this is called a lock, this is called a lock. A ship comes into this area, but it needs to get to this height. So it fills up with water, fills up, first these are closed, the locks are closed, and it fills up with water, raises, 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 open, goes into the next one, closes, closes, filled up with water, raises, 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 open up, goes into the next one, and then finally goes out to the lake. So, who was our last partner? 2 is good. 1s, using the picture, explain locks to your partner and go.
So you
So a ship is committed to, and so when they go into one,
Something lower.
First of all,
Or vice versa.
the most affirmative person in the room, nodding the whole time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was awesome. So,
Ooh, nice job.
go from, say, higher to lower. And we go into what's called a walk.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, fall silent. Woo woo, good job. I taught it, and then I had you teach it. And that would be what, everyone? Rehearsal. Because you could use your notes, but you also, some of you just retrieved it from memory. Woo woo. Okay, so let's just look at this. So first of all, it may interest you that 4 years ago, we had such large ships moving through the Panama Canal that they dug 2 additional channels. And it took a number of years to build. So now there is more than one option here. So, and one kind of ship that goes through this are what, everyone? Cruise ships, and another is cargo ships. So if we looked at this, one's whisper to your partner what you believe that kind of ship is, and go. Okay, now that whispering was our way. We're going to have to review tomorrow whispering. Okay, so you said cruise ships. And 2s, tell your partner what kind of ship this might be. And it was what, everyone? A cargo ship. Yes. Okay, so those are the 2 kinds of ships that pass through the Panama Canal. And so we're going to learn as we go deep into studying the Panama Canal how it's used. But we'll just use a simple example. I used it earlier. We have logs that we've cut down, and they are not easy to go across. We could put them on a train. That's one possibility. We're not going to put them on an airplane, but we might put them on a ship. Now they want to get to the East Coast. Now, before the Panama Canal, they would have to go all the way down underneath what continent, everyone? South America. But this is very dangerous waters. So it was very precarious, very dangerous. So now they can go through the Panama Canal. Just a few little facts. And one of them is that it was started by the French, but then finished by the United States in 1914. And in 2014, there was 14,000 vessels, boats, ships, and they did allow 1 kayak and never again. And it takes how many hours to cross, everyone? 8 to 10 hours. It is so dangerous to go through these locks exactly right that there is a whole new crew that gets on the ship. And the other crew has to go to another room. They're not allowed to direct their own ship. So it costs about $150,000 toll to go through the Panama Canal. But do you know how much it costs a cruise ship? Slightly more than $1 million to go through it. That's why you're paying for your room. So we can go through the locks. So we can go through the Panama Canal. All right, and everybody get out your response card sheet. Some quick review. Okay, you're going to touch agree or disagree, and when I say show me, you're going to hold it up in the air and read it with me and go. Panama is a country in Central America. Don't show me yet till I tell you. And show me. Yes, agree, agree, agree. To build Panama Canal, it was necessary to dredge, to dig out the entire 50 miles of its length. Check your partner, see if they have the same answer. High in the air, show me. Whoa, disagree, because they were able to use the lake for part of it. And locks are used to move a ship from one water level to another. Don't put it up yet. Check your partner, see if they have the same idea. High in the air, show me. Agree, agree, agree. Excellent. Now, we've already seen the benefit of holdups because I couldn't listen to all of your responses back there, but I could see all of your answers, so you had accountability to participate. Well, it takes 2 to 3 hours to move through the Panama Canal. And 2 to 3 hours, everybody show them up. And it is disagree. Good job of adjusting your answer. And while the Panama Canal was important to trade in the early 1900s, it is no longer critical to international trade. Okay, show me in the back, way high, high, high. Disagree, disagree, disagree. It still is critical. Don't you love those? And we're talking cheap and easy, but very good for total participation. Well, now, here's a question that I'm often asked. Should you not just activate it by asking them questions? What do you already know about the Panama Canal? Well, no, you're going to tell, then ask. There is a time, though, where you might want to ask if you thought that they had recently been taught the information. And so this is just a quick example. So I was reading in high school with students an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, a short story that was written immediately after the Civil War. And the kids had already had that semester American history, and they had studied the Civil War. So then I could activate it. I could activate it, and I did. What were the northern states called? Whisper to your partner the answer. In the Civil War, what were they called? Okay, some of you are saying, thank God it's a review. They were called the what, everyone? The Union. And what were the southern states called? Whisper to your partner. Okay, and it was the Confederacy. The setting is in the state of Alabama. Is this a southern or northern state? One's whisper to your partner. Southern or northern, which one? Southern. Okay, so is this state part of the Union or the Confederacy? Don't say it. Whisper to your partner. And the answer is? Now there, because you'd been taught it, it was better for me to review using retrieval, because you're going to remember it more than if I had just given you a review of it verbally. That would make almost no difference in retention, but this way you're retrieving it. All right, well, okay, you're just all glad that we're getting there. So we might preview the material and during reading. So we used to teach a lot of different comprehension strategies like visualization and many, but it appears from the research currently done on comprehension is that the best thing we can do is ask questions that directly relate to the content. Because I don't want you focusing on visualization, I want you to focus on what? The Panama Canal. So asking questions happens to be a good idea. Now recently, when I was in Alaska, a new teacher, a very young teacher said to me, but, oh, that's so old school to ask questions. And I just turned and said, you know, there's some old things that are still good. All right, and asking questions is good because I can focus on the content and increase your, what, everyone? Attention and concentration. And we can also rehearse. As you answer questions as we go through, you're going to rehearse. And so we looked at what research told us that would make the most difference. And one was that they could be asked questions and they could answer the questions. They could also apply a strategy that I'm going to show you and making questions. Now, because of our time, and, oh, that's okay. We can, Amanda and Julia, it'd be okay if we stayed till 7:30? Would that be acceptable? Okay. The answer was no. Oh, right, that's too bad. But, so I'm going to ask questions. And it is a evidence-based, time-honored procedure. And I'm going to have us read a certain amount, stop, and ask a question. And this is just to show you, woo-woo, the research. Now, one of the things that you're going to hear about in your classes is what are called text-dependent questions, meaning I'm going to ask you questions that the answer is dependent on, have you read it? Because I want to keep all your cognition in the text, not out of the text. Get your hand up in the air, everybody. Everybody in the back, I don't see it yet. In the text, not out of the text. In the text, not out of the text. In the text, not out of the text. Now, are you likely to remember that? You'd say, weird woman, in the text, out of the text, but I don't care. You'll remember it. But so we asked the question, not things like, would you like to travel to Panama? Or have you been to another place that had a big lake? Or because see, that takes you right out of the content and reduces your comprehension. So teachers have got to get rid of that habit of saying, well, I just want to keep them involved. No, I want to keep them involved in the text, not out of the text. In the text, not out of the text. All right, so now, there it is, in the text, not out of the text, just in case you later need a memory of it. So they're going to read something, and this is, well, I know tonight when you go to dinner, this is such good reading. Catherine, stay after. Yes. So, before the Panama Canal was built, how did people travel from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States? So that would be a question I'd ask after the first paragraph has been read. We might have read it chorally. We might have read it, read it to ourselves. We might have read it to our partners. In fact, reading it more than one time is likely to improve our comprehension. And this is directly the information in that you'd have to go around South America or over land. And begin by saying. Now, I want you to get into the habit of using sentence stems, sentence starters, so that the students use complete sentences and academic language. It's a big takeaway, but it could be used at any grade level. So I said to the kids, you're going to begin by saying, before the Panama Canal was built, people traveled from the East Coast to the West Coast by either going around by ship around South America or traveling across the land. And so, what were some of the complications resulting from taking these routes? And the students are going to begin by saying what, everyone? Some of the complications of these routes were. And so then they're going to complete it. But if I didn't ask them to use a sentence starter, they wouldn't use one of the critical vocabulary words I want them to learn. So this is setting them up to use the knowledge that we have taught. Well, when you sit down at dinner, read a paragraph, stop and answer the questions, and then read the next paragraph, stop, and we will be totally thrilled with the effort. But let's stop and look at probably the best research-validated practice So raise your hand if you're hoping to teach science at middle school or high school, or social studies at middle school or high school. Raise them high. Okay, so this is the strategy for you. It's the best research-validated strategy and comprehension done by Sharon Vaughn and a research team at University of Texas, Austin, called Getting the Gist. And in here, the students read a paragraph, and after the paragraph has been read, either the teacher would say, read it with me, name the who or what the paragraph is about in a brief phrase. Or once they've learned the strategy, they could work with a partner, and you could say to your partner, name the who or what in the paragraph in a brief phrase. And then the teacher or their partner would say, everybody, identify 2 or 3 important details about the topic. And then everybody, shrink the paragraph by stating or writing the main idea. So they read this paragraph, they said who or what it's about, the 2 most important things, they put it together in a main idea statement that they either write down or share with their partner. A very powerful strategy that you might use. Well, it's one that I have to teach. In 1974, I wrote a chapter in a book. Raise your hand if you were not alive at that moment. Oh, yeah. Okay. At that time, probably one of the most well-known researchers in American education was Madeline Hunter. And she talked about demonstration, guided practice, checking for understanding. And I wanted to use terms that were more memorable, so I introduced I do it, we do it, you do it. I do it, I demonstrate, model. We do it, I guide you in practice, step by step, and then you do it, and I monitor if you can do it independently. So now that is ubiquitous. Everywhere you go, you see, I do, we do, you do. Sometimes I do it, we do it, you do it. But raise your hand if you're a special ed teacher. This will be central to everything you do. I say the sound, we say the sound, you say the sound. I sound out a word, I sound out a word, we sound out a word, we sound out a word, we sound out a word, see you tomorrow, we sound out a word, we sound out a word, you sound out a word. So it is something to master before you go off to teach. So, okay, this is the lesson that I taught. After reading, there's 2 major things that are researched. And good job turning over. Can't see the number of that slide, but now I've got you prepared. We have read it segment by segment, stopping to answer questions or to do a strategy like getting the gist. And I want you to remember it. And this is where we often stop, and then they don't have enough rehearsal and retrieval to retain it. So we need to do what, everyone? Rehearse the critical content, and then we need to retrieve it so that you will remember it, and we might expand upon it. But our time is almost up. And did we cover a little or a lot in this mere 2 hours? Quite a bit. Okay, so I want you to think for a moment of what would be your takeaway if you were teaching. Do not say it, but think about it. What would be like one takeaway that you could utilize in your teaching career? Thinking? Okay, and stand up, up, up. Face your partner, face your partner. And twos, you're going first. My biggest takeaway is, and then ones, my biggest takeaway is, and then if I haven't said stop, then you say another takeaway is, and go back and forth and begin.
Tell, don't
I would say my biggest takeaway.
I haven't met you.
I'm Courtney.
Hi, Courtney.
And Grace.
Met you, Grace,
Yes.
because you still had cold hands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, what was the takeaway?
My takeaway was that in the text, not out of the text, because both my students and I have a problem with tangenting.
That's right, digressions. Yes, they are the killer of perky pace. Yeah.
I really liked in the video, Dr. Archer, and I wrote it multiple times, and you said my turn first.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And you were
I
thinking,
love this right here. I'm using this. Tell, don't ask. Dr. Archer.
honey, you couldn't
can
be
you sign
better.
that for me?
Oh.
Thank you so much, Dr. Archer.
Can I do that?
Thank you so much.
I wanted to say, and I told her that my biggest is rehearse and retrieve.
Rehearse and retrieve.
So kind of
Yes, kind of you. Were you totally on task at that moment?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Team. I appreciate it. Just knowing that we for like research things. It's nice.
Okay, and sit. So I heard things such as tell, don't ask. Everybody does everything, having many opportunities to respond, using routines so that you master them and the students know what's happening also. I heard, I liked choral reading and choral responses. I'm going to use those holdups. They make a difference. But there is a complexity and a simplicity to good instruction. And the simplicity is you teach it. You don't hope for it. You don't pray for it. Prayer is always a good addition. You teach it. And after you've given input, then you ask a question to retrieve an answer, and you have the students rehearse and retrieve. A number of you said that. It has been a total honor to be here with you. I wish I sometimes was back at a university teaching because, I was pretty good and loved it. But the world of research and other things have taken me away from it. But it is a true honor. And I often speak about this university because when I look around the state and the nation, the education program here is really excellent, particularly the fact that so many of you are getting information about general ed and special ed. And basically, the same teaching procedures that work really well in special ed work really well in general ed, because the concepts are the same. That we teach information, we get lots of responses, we monitor those responses, we give feedback to the students on them, we adjust our lesson based on their performance. That little kernel happens again and again and again. So may you, for someone who has loved teaching for 56, almost 57 years, find the same joy I've had in this career and still do. I just was asked out in the hall, aren't you going to retire? And I have to tell you my answer. Look at the morphemes of the word. Again. Tired to get tired again. I think not. So go have a lovely Thanksgiving and be very thankful you're going to school here and that you're in Portland, Oregon. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. Do we need anything at the end? Amanda.
Deep gratitude for this beautiful presentation. Also, National Collection Fund for the work that
Thank you. And do take good care of yourself. Be safe on this holiday weekend. Thank you. Go Ducks. Go Ducks. Although I wanted the Beavers to win. 2 points, 2 little points.